Okay, good morning, Shalom Aleichem, and good Chodesh to everyone. Ezrat Hashem, this should be the last time we enter Chodesh Av with unshaven beards. And in a sense of sadness and mourning, it should be the last time, and we should enter Bezrat Hashem next time. Next Chodesh Av should be Besimcha, Me'avel Yom Tov. The last time we learned was quite a while ago. So just to review, and it's just one piece that we need to take out of Parak Zayin for now. We're up to Shmuel Bey's Paraches, and that is that in Shmuel Bey's Parak Zayin, David Melech wanted to build the Beis Hamikdash, and essentially he was told no. He was told no. Your son, who's going to take over for you, he is going to build Bayis L'Shmi. He's going to build the Beis Hamikdash, and we discussed at length what was the reason? What does it mean that he had blood on his hands? Why isn't that mentioned in our Sefer, only in Divrei Hayamim? David takes this in a very important way. What we're going to see now and experience in this next chapter is that David wages proactive regional wars against all of our enemies. And we just said Hallel this morning, and for me, Hallel is one of my favorite tefillos that we say all the time. And what I focused on this morning in davening was in that long paragraph of Min HaMeitzer Karasi Ka, we say Kol Goyim Sivavuni Uveshem Hashem Ki Amilam. Kol Goyim Sivavuni. All of the nations surround me. Right? David HaMelech was saying that. And who does he rely upon? Hashem. We are right now in the same state. We always were. It always was. Israel was surrounded by enemies. But now they want to Sabuni Gam Sivavuni. They're getting inching closer and closer. And they want to attack. Uvetshem Hashem Ki Amilam. And we call out and rely on the Ribono Shel Olam. So David, the Malbim writes, David takes a message from Hashem's answer. And the message is, David, if you have blood in your hands, that's your job. Your job is to wage war. That is your job. The next one up, the next king, is going to live in a peaceful time. But David, you have to make sure that happens. The Malbim says, after he was told through Nasa and Navi, you're not going to build a bias, he realized his job is not finished. He still has to get the Jewish people to a state of peace, and that is by subduing our enemy. And for me, I've learned this parak several times already in my life, and with our modern day ears, it's a little bit hard and a little bit harsh to hear. Waging wars and expanding the boundaries of the land of Israel. While you can argue it is a mitzvah, maybe it's not a mitzvah, it's a machames rishos, it's voluntary. I think, for me, post October 7th, I think I understand this in a very different way, why it is much more important, although we made it hard for us to understand, waging wars against our enemies. Sometimes the people in those regions, the only thing they respond to, unfortunately, is strength. And when we don't show strength, they view it as weakness. And maybe this is what we are seeing here. For many, many years, maybe I'm the only one, but you learn the story about Shaul and Amalek and Agag, and you kind of feel bad for Shaul. So what? He left out Agag. What's the big deal? Leave him alone. Hashem knows. You're right. So Shaul didn't listen to God. But even leaving one of our enemies left over means that the enemy is not destroyed and they're not going to learn their lesson. And that is something that we continue to face. B'chol dor v'dor. B'chol dor v'dor. V'hi acharei chen. Let's begin. Vayach David es Plishtim. So he goes ahead and he attacks the Plishtim. Vayach ni'em. Vayikach David es mesak ha'ama Miyad ha-plishtim. Miyad plishtim. So he subdues the plishtim. And again, this is David's like arch nemesis number one, is the plishtim. Well, until now, we're going to see that David's going to face a new arch nemesis in the upcoming prakim. You know what that's going to be? Himself. The greatest enemy to the Jewish people is not the people, the nations surrounding us. It is Am Yisrael, ourselves. We are our own greatest enemy. Now, David subdues the plishtim, and he snatches Meseg Ha'ama. Vusepis, what is Meseg Ha'ama? It's very not clear what Meseg Ha'ama is. Rashi says Meseg Ha'ama is a city. Meseg Ha'ama is, Rashi explains, is a stick. If you wanted to ride a donkey or a horse, you use like a stick to hit it, and then it moved. So that's what a meseg is. So what does that symbolize? That this city that they attacked was a city that everyone moves through. Meaning everyone follows whatever this city does, everyone follows suit afterwards. Which city is this? This is the city of Gat, Gimel Tuf. This is one of the cities of the Plishtim. The Plishtim had 5 cities, right? We know this all too well. That is Ashkelon, Ashdod, Aza, Ekron, and Gat, right? They're pretty much in the same locations as they were back then. I'm right now have open in front of me. Koren has an amazing Tanakh, has amazing Sefer on Shmuel, Aleph, and Beis, and it has like all the maps in it. So I have it opened here, and it really is exactly where Ashdod, Ashkelon, Aza are today, is this location. I don't know if we have a city Gat in Kiryat Gat, maybe it's the same thing, I'm not sure. And so Gat was like the main mover and shaker of all of the cities. Why is that? If you notice the subtleties in the Tanakh, Gat always has a king. Achish was Melech Gat. The other ones don't have kings. They have like generals, or they have like lords that are overseeing them, but not a general. So David went ahead and attacked Gat. And once you're able to control that one city, then everyone else would follow suit. That is the way Rashi interprets this pasuk. The Radak says something very, very fascinating. He says that Avimelech quotes a medrash in Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer, that Avimelech and Yitzchak, way back in the day, made a bris. They made a covenant with one another. And the way that they sealed the deal was that Yitzchak gave something to Avimelech. What did he give him? He gave him this meseg. He gave him this hitting stick that they use for the animals. And this was a sign that Yitzchak was never going to attack Avimelech, and Avimelech was never going to attack Yitzchak. They made a peace treaty. So nice. They made a peace treaty with the Plishtim. Sounds similar. Well, Avimelech, his children, abrogated, they violated that peace treaty many, many times throughout Sefer Shmuel and Sefer Shoftim. So David goes to attack the Plishtim, and the Plishtim have this stick. It's probably in some museum. And they have the stick that Yitzchak gave to Avimelech. And they say, no, you can't attack us. Look, we have the peace treaty. The treaty's right here. David says, let me see it. He takes it and he breaks it in half. He breaks it because it's worthless, right? With some of our neighbors, if we signed a peace treaty with them, what is it worth? It's worth the piece of paper that it's signed on. It's not worth anything. They violated. You can't trust them. So why do we need to hold up our end of the bargain? Get out of here. So David breaks that, and then he goes ahead and he takes Eretz Plishtim. So Eretz Plishtim, we call it in the south of Israel. It's really the southwest of Eretz Israel, and he takes over those cities. It's important to note that Gaza is all over the news today, that the Radak, Rav David Kimchi, the Radak writes that when Mashiach comes, the Jewish people are going to take over Gaza. That's what he writes as part of the Ari Plushtim. He writes that in Sefer Bereshis. Pretty amazing. Not making any predictions over here, but I think that's like a very, very fascinating thing that Gaza, 2005, it's been in the news for a very, very, very long time. And there's something about Gaza, I don't know what it is, but there's a significance there that tells us a lot about what is happening in history. Then he goes ahead and continues. Vayach es Moab. He goes to Moab. Where is Moab located? Moab is located southeast of Eretz. And he goes to attack them. But he attacks them in a very, very, not sure. You tell me what word you want to describe this as. Well, how did he kill them? Vayimadedem bechevel. He made the soldiers of the town lie down, and he took out a rope, a measuring rope, and he said, if you're taller than this rope, you get killed. Vayimaded shnei chavalim lahamis. If you're 2 ropes size, then we're going to kill you. And if you're not, and if you're shorter than that, malo hachavel, and if you're just 1 rope size, lachayos, then you get to live. Vatihi Moab David lavadim nosei mincha, and the rest of the people became servants of David. What does that mean? They became servants of David. David did not remove them from where they lived. They became a vassal state to the state of Israel, and they paid taxes to David Hamelech. And I guess, why would David do this? This sounds pretty heinous. That be
Rabbi.
Yeah.
So David was denied that he couldn't build the Beis Hamikdash. So did he need now a mission to find something that he needed to accomplish?
So because the Malbim writes
because he couldn't do it.
That he saw within God's answer of Dam la Rob Shafachta is that your job is to continue fighting wars. That's your role. Your role is to continue fighting wars and to expand, the land of Israel. That's your job. Meaning it's not just a negative, but he viewed this as a positive answer. And sometimes, you get that. That's my role. That's my tachlis now. My tachlis is, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it well. Like Rabbi Yudin likes to say, in kvar, az kvar. Sure, we've heard that a few hundred times from Rabbi Yudin. You're going to do it well. So if that's going to be my role as a dam la rov shafachta, then I'm going to do this very well. But how do we understand that David takes over Moab in such a terrible way? Mi yichya o mi yamos, like with this rope. So Rashi and the Radak fill us in on something very, very terrible. So, and I referenced this when we were learning about David running away from Shaul. So David becomes a fugitive, where Shaul, the king, wants to kill him, and the entire country is looking for him. They're not just looking for him, but presumably they'll incarcerate his parents, his siblings, and David decides that I'm going to send all of my siblings and my parents to Moab. Why is David going to send them to Moab? What's the relationship here between David and Moab? For only a few.
David came from Moab.
So David came from Moab, right? Rus, Hamoaviyah. That was, so they're mishpacha. They're mishpacha. He figures, who can you trust? You can trust your family. He sends them all there to the king there, and they say, no problem, we will protect them. Says Rashi, why did he measure them and do this to them. Lefisha hargu es aviv ves imo va'achiv. When David left, they murdered David's mother, father, and all of his brothers, minus one. One of them was able to get out. David did this out of revenge. Derech nikama ubizayon. He did this to embarrass them of what they did. How horrible is it that I trust you? And look what you did. And look what you did. Only one person, Nachash Amoni, right? Amoni is another city, another country. Nachash hid one of David's kids. We're going to see that Nachash and David are going to have a very positive relationship. That is Moab. Vayokod mimenu elef u'shva meos parashim. So what does David continue to do? David defeats. Oh, sorry, I skipped the pasuk. Pasuk Gimel. Vayach David is Hadad Ezer, then Rechov Melech Tzova. Then he goes to Sova. Where is Sova? That is very much to the north of. It might even be where Iran maybe is. It's adjacent to Damascus today. So he goes to Hadad Ezer ben Rechov Melech Tzova, v'lachto la'ashiv yado b'nahar pras. Okay, where was he? Hadad Ezer was on his way to restore some type of monument. Was there in Nahar Pras by the Euphrates River. By the Euphrates River. What was going on over here? So Hadad Ezer had gone very close to Eretz Yisrael, to the Euphrates, very, very close to there, and he had some type of structure that either was like a Avodah Zarah or otherwise that was the shape of a yud. Okay, Ratzalomar binyan banoi va'alav tunas yud la'osha kavsha biyado, to show that like they conquer this land, and this land belongs to them. So David himself went ahead and he removed that structure, and then subsequently V'yoko David mimenu elef u'shva meos parasim, he conquers 1,700 horsemen, u'shva meos, V'esrim elef ish ragli, 20,000 foot soldiers. Vayaker David is called Harecha v'yoser mimenu mei harecha. So David then went ahead and he took the chariots, the horses, he hamstrung them, he injured the horses so that the horses could no longer be mobile. They were mobile, but they couldn't run as fast as they usually can. They didn't have their horsepower. And except for 100 of them, he kept. So why in the world would David do this to these animals? So Radak writes over here, David, now that David conquered this city, all the horses belong to him. And the Torah says very explicitly, that the king is not allowed to have too many wives, too much money, and too many horses, lest you go back to Egypt, right? So he did not want to have too many horses because you'd be violating a prohibition in the Torah. He didn't want to kill them either. So he says, I can't really kill them. That's not right. So he hamstrung them, and that they couldn't move too much, but they were still alive. And the Radak tries to explain how that wasn't considered Sa'ar Balei Chayim in this area, and that was mutter. Okay, so now we have Moab, Plishtim, Sova, and now we continue to Aram Damascus. All right, Tavo Aram Damascus, La Azor, La Hadad Ezer Melech Sova. He goes to Aram Damascus. Why did Aram Damascus? Why is he going there next? Because they went to go help Hadad Ezer. They went to help Sova. They're adjacent countries. They were in peace street. I guess they liked each other, and he went to go help them. Vayach David ba'aram esrim ushnayim elef ish. And then in this war that they waged against to protect Sova, David struck down 22,000 of the from Aram Damascus. Vayasim David nitzivim ba'aram Damascus. He placed garrisons, like people in charge over there, governors in charge of these countries, so they wouldn't rebel against them again. They also pay taxes now. And lest we think otherwise, Hashem was with David in everything that he was doing. This is all what he's doing right now. Like when you hear about, the borders of David HaMelech, this is all with the approval of the Ribono Shel Olam. Everything he was doing right now was Kadosh Baruch Hu was very much comfortable and satisfied with David's actions. Vayikach David, and then what did David do? And we're going to see some of David's motivations beyond just let me expand the borders and continue fighting. Vayikach David es shiltei hazahav asher hayu el avdei Hadad Ezer vayiviim Yerushalayim. He takes shiltei zahav. What is shiltei zahav? Some type of gold. Gold of what? So you see the Sephardi here takes the opinion of Radak that Hadad Ezer's soldiers came out to war with shields made out of gold. So David takes them back to Yerushalayim. Others say, Rashi writes, the quivers of the arrows are made out of gold, and he brought that to Yerushalayim. Either way, he brought gold back to Yerushalayim. Why is he bringing gold to Yerushalayim? Why do you think? Why is that important for him to bring gold back to Yerushalayim? What is the significance of this gold? The goal is
for the Beis HaMikdash.
For the Beis HaMikdash. See that the spoils that David's using right now have a purpose, and the purpose is that David's saying, I can't build the Beis HaMikdash. I'm sure going to make sure that everything that is needed for the Mikdash is going to be there. And when Shlomo is set up, he's going to be set up with everything on his plate. Then David ultimately takes a lot of nechoshes, a lot of copper from this city. They had a lot of copper there, and you can see that the Malbim says explicitly that from this nechoshet they made different parts of the Beis HaMikdash, the Yam, the Amudim, and the Klei HaNechoshes. So they literally used all these things that David now is taking, they're using for the Beis HaMikdash. So now the other kings are getting nervous. Vayishma Toi Melech Hamas. Toi, who's the king of Hamas, hears that David is, going around the region and taking over all of these countries. Hamas is even more further north than Sova and Damascus, and he's nervous. Like he's just moving up and up and up. So what's going to happen next? So Vayishlach Toi is Yoram Beno El Hamelch David. So Toi sends his son, right, the prince, to David. Lish'ola l'shalom u'levarcho. Ask him for peace and to bless him. Alasher nyochlam Hadad Ezer v'akeu ki ish mechamos Toi haya Hadad Ezer v'yado hayu v'kesef klei zahav v'klei nechoshech. So what did he do? Toi did not get along with Hadad Ezer. They were always at war together. So Toi sends his son Yoram to say thank you. Shkoyach. I really appreciate it. You took out my enemy. Thank you. He gave him blessings. And third, he gave him gifts. gold, silver, and the choshes. And the goal was this, through this, to make a peace treaty with him. It should be noted, it's not mentioned here, but according to the Rambam writes when you're fighting these wars, there's an obligation to first engage in peace, first inquire about peace, and ask if that's what they want. And if they don't, then you go to war. And that's exactly what happened here. These tribes or these countries were not friends of ours, and only waiting for moments of weakness from us to go ahead and attack us. And it was very clear it's clear always, we learn, you learn enough Tanakh, you learn what their motivations are. So Gamad Osam Hikdish Hamel David Lashem Imakesav Vasahav Asher Hikdish Mikol Hagoyim Asher Kivesh. So David takes all this gold and silver from Yoram, and he makes all of this as part of his, as puts it away in the storehouse for later. And all of the other spoils that he gets from all these people, added in here is Ammon and Amalek, which we have to assume he also had wars against, which is not mentioned explicitly. He gives it all to the base Hamikdash. Okay. Vayaz David Shem Yishuvo Mehakosoes Aram Begay Melech Shmona Asar Elaf. David creates a name for himself. Right? The Sefaria says here he gained fame. What does that mean? When he returned from defeating Edom. Edom is in the south. That's Esav. Is Edom. That is in the south, right? Close to Egypt. That's in the south. What does it mean he gained fame? This Radak. You want to see the difference? This is amazing Radak. The Radak says, it's Rashi. Apologize. Shekaver es harugim shaharag be'edom. When he fought against Edom, and this is true also about all the other nations that he fought with, he ensured that his enemies would receive proper burial. And just for that, his name spread, that he was a man of integrity. He was a man that believed in Tzelem Elokim, right? The Mitzrayim were Mesu as Fasayam, and then they were buried. We are not barbaric like our enemies. We try to ensure that they all get kivura, and we never hold their bodies as hostages. Never. Eli Cohn, Zachariah Baumel. You can name so many more. Zachariah Baumel, Baruch Hashem, we found. The Yasem, and think of the 40 hostages today that are probably dead in Hamas's hands, and they won't even return them.
Who knows how many?
It's a bargaining chip for them. You're right, Jules. We don't know how many. Vayas David Shem. Vayasem be'edom nitzivim b'chol edom sham nitzivim. V'yichol edom avadim l'David v'yosha Hashem es David b'chol asher halach. And again, he puts garrisons there, the governors. They become a vassal state to Eretz Israel, and v'yosha Hashem. And Hashem is with David, hand in hand, right? Step by step. They're lockstep together. David is king over all of Israel. It's Osa, Mishpat, Utzedakah. David is not only tending to the big wars, the regional wars, it's not only an unbelievable general, but he also is a judge, and he does mishpat utzedakah. Many of the Farshim here, what is mishpat utzedakah? Okay, here is a famous, this well-known Gemara that because David kept peace amongst the Jewish people by doing mishpat and tzedakah, therefore Yoav, his general, was able to be successful in war. Those two things go together. But mishpat tzedakah literally means that he's able to make sure that there was that people got along together, and that he adjudicated, as part of the role of a king, was to adjudicate judgments. The Yoav ben Tzruya al Tzava now tells us about David's cabinet members. Yoav was in charge of the Tzava; he was the general. Yoshafat ben Achilud was his maskir, was his recorder. Tzadok ben Achitu v'Achimelech ben Aviatar kohanim. Usraya was the sofer. So these are different jobs of the all the members of David's cabinet. Uvenayahu ben Yehoyada v'Akresi v'Aklesi. So Benayahu ben Yehoyada was in charge of the Kresi and the Plesi. That was probably like a smaller type of officer. Over there, like the arrow slingers and the people that were like the horsemen, and the Bnei David Kohanim Hayu, and the children of David were Kohanim. The children of David were definitely not Kohanim. So Rashi says that Rav Ravin Hayu, he had numerous amounts of children. That's what it means, Kohanim. The Radak says Kohanim means they were Talmidei Chachamim. That David's kids were Talmidei Chachamim, and that's what was happening over here. Okay, so this is really where you hear that David was a general, and David expanded the borders of Israel. This is really where you see, and this is going to set up one more pivotal war that we're going to see in Perek, I believe in Perek Yud. One thing's going to happen in the middle of that. There's going to be a tremendous amount of love for David and respect for David HaMelech from the people, and an ability to almost look past some personal flaws with David, because he's built up so much goodwill with the people, not only in the way that he took care of Shaul and never embarrassed him, but also through solidifying and subduing our enemies in such a systematic way. It's not clear how many years this perek took. I can't imagine, especially back then. It took, it was fast. Definitely several years, if not a lot more, of David's life took place in this chapter. Okay. Any questions? Okay.
Regarding all this gold that's going to Yerushalayim, ultimately for the Beit HaMikdash. And it's like, it's hard to think that the Beit HaMikdash, would have enemy gold. On the one hand, you could say it's like, the Kadosh Baruch Hu and Bnei Yisrael and all that surpass and won over the enemies. But to have like enemy stuff, gold, be part of the Beit HaMikdash is a very strange thought to me.
I hear you. And
what happened with the stuff from Mitzrayim when they came out? And the Mishkan also, what happened?
That was for the Mishkan. That was for the Mishkan. So Shiur, to contrast it even more, but exactly what Mendy said, is that the Mishkan was used from, it was from Mitzrayim, right? Also.
Right.
So it's, where are you getting the gold from? I hear you. But let's hold off on that question until we get up to Sefer Malachim. Okay, just write it down somewhere. Put it on your fridge in a magnet. Okay, and because we need to look at that when we look at Shlomo building the Beis HaMikdash, and think about it. Who built the Beis HaMikdash? The Mishkan was built by Jewish people. Artisans, women, everyone got involved. Betzalel, Ohaliav. The Mikdash wasn't. It was built by foreign by the Arabs, right? It's built by the Arab workers. Like look at Israel now, right? And Mefarshim are not so happy with that, and maybe that's why it didn't last. Versus the Mishkan, by the way, is still around. The Mishkan is somewhere in the world today. Where is it? I don't know. You have to ask Harrison Ford. But it's like it exists. It was folded up and it was put away, and it's somewhere. It's somewhere there. We know that the Luchos obviously, and the Aron and the menorah, they're somewhere, but also the Mishkan itself, what is kept la'olam. It's kept la'olam. That's a Rashi in I think in Parashas Trumah, Tetzaveh. But the Mikdash wasn't. It was destroyed, and it was rebuilt. It's different, a little bit different. So I think we have to talk about this in terms of motivations and where you get your stuff from, and does that matter? Does it matter when you're building something? Okay, so we'll
I mean, lahavdil. It's like, does the shul or a Jewish organization take money from some philanthropist when the money he got was maybe not the most legitimate money?
Or I would say even to compare better, maybe it is legitimate money, but he is an Oved Avodah Zarah. He's a evangelical Christian, right? You know how much money Christians give to the Jewish people today in Israel? Billions, right? Not with the M, with the B. And the money's going to yeshivas. It's not just going to like to make trees. No, it's and to build mikvos and to build shuls. So there are tshuvas on this. There's actually a Gemara in Daf Yomi. I think it was yesterday. I'm not sure if I'm like Jay and I don't know what day it is. All I know is I know so my Kriyat Shema. I know when Shkia is. I know when I have to daven in the morning. I don't know what day it is. So hopefully it'll catch up to me. So I don't know what Daf Yomi it was. I don't know what I'm up to.
I hope you daven was Kodesh.
Thank you. I did. I was in shul, so that I followed everyone else. The Gemara talks about a non-Jew like donated something to a shul, and some people wanted to use it, and some people didn't want to use it. And some people said he doesn't live here, so like we could tell him we're going to use it, but we're not going to use it. And it's like that could happen today. We'll take a picture with it, and then whatever, and we'll find out when he comes next. You got to understand the motivations, both ways in that issue. Okay. With that, I wish everyone a good Chodesh. It should be a Chodesh that is full of
Rabbi,
Two quick announcements.
part of the Jewish mafia.